Hi, I'm Gary D, and you're listening to Loose Lips.
Hey everybody, I'm
Hi,
Avelli.
and I'm Tim Moss.
And guess what? Tim, everybody's listening to
Loose Lips.
Who Has the Loosest Lips in Town? The audience.
Oh my God, Ike, how are you?
I am good. A little heat wave there this week, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, right? It's like summer all of a sudden,
Yeah.
which is okay, but
Yeah.
I like to ease my way in, but
Yeah.
I'll take what we can get.
Yeah,
But
I
I
agree.
just saw you.
I know.
It was so fabulous.
I can't get over it. Oh my God. Oh my God. And guess what? More times like that are coming.
Absolutely. Yeah, I went to New Jersey and stayed at his place over the weekend, and it was so wonderful. Just seeing you in person and hanging out, and there was a little laughter here and there. And
A little.
it's always just nonstop with us.
So unlike us religious people, right? Laughter.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. So Tim, as always, our show is sponsored by Uber Lube.
We love Uber Lube.
So if you want, you could visit uberlube.com and find out so much about this amazing product.
Well, again, it's of course it's a lube. You can use it as a lube, or you can put it seriously put it on your hair as a moisturizer. It works on your hair somehow. I don't usually use it, but yeah.
But it does get on hair.
It's on my hair. I don't use it.
On your hair, not necessarily on your head.
Yeah, I don't put it on my hair, but I do use Uber Lube.
But we will say that Uber Lube does work as a great finishing product. And many
there we go. Finishing product. Yes.
Yes. So, Tim, I have some good news.
I love good news. Tell me good news.
We are now heard on podbay.fm.
Yay! I know!
And we're also heard on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, Spotify, iTunes, and so many other great platforms that we're so grateful to be on.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
And I also wanted to make sure that people do not forget, after this episode airs on those wonderful platforms, you can catch us the next Wednesday on our YouTube channel and watch the whole entire video.
Exactly. Well, I want to give a shout out to some of our new listeners. Can you believe we keep getting new listeners all over? And I love this. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes.
We had listeners in Bologna, Italy, and Toronto, Canada, and just some amazing cities here in the U.S. That were listening into our last show from like San Francisco and San Rafael, California. Hi. Aiken, South Carolina. And I'm aching for Aiken. And Philadelphia and here in Manhattan, where listeners are just piling in every week.
Yes, Manhattan, we love you. And you know what? Aiken, I wonder if that's where Clay is from.
They might have even named the town after him. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to check that out. We should do a show in Aiken.
Yeah.
Serious.
I would hope so. The perfect name for us.
Yes.
So, Tim, we are thrilled to have our special guest on today. Our guest tonight has been entertaining audiences all over the world for decades, impersonating our favorite comedy legend, Joan Rivers. His impersonation was so incredible, Joan requested him many times to work with him, which included an episode of Celebrity Apprentice.
Yeah, I love that. And also like the superstars that he's met from doing that, like Elton John, Joan Collins, and on so many iconic television shows like Geraldo and The Today Show, and of course The Late Show starring Joan Rivers. Oh my God. And also he is no stranger to Atlantic City. Nah. He's performed in and had like long running lengthy residencies at the name hotels as well as venues in Vegas and all over. So please welcome the sensational one and only Gary D.
Yes! We're all here together. Look at this. It's so good.
I know. If we were any closer, we'd need Uber Lube.
Oh, Gary, thank
how this
you.
all started with the cheese? You
Yeah.
sent me the cheese that arrived at around 4 o'clock today, and I've been nibbling on it while I'm watching the two of you do your intro.
Well, just like you, Gary, to start way before it even happens.
But
and I love
thank
you. You did a lot of research. That you're very accurate on all the stuff, on all the places that I worked in, and I should say we worked in, myself and Joan.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, you know what? We can't wait to get into all of that, but we're going to go all the way back, Gary, and we want to know, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Lodi, New Jersey, which is about an hour and a half north of here, and always wanted to be in show business, as we all did. That's why we're on camera here and these little icons. And I was performing. I was in my early 20s, and I was performing in drag shows, And I always wanted to have a character that would be like a very fun character. So I sort of thought, well, Joan Rivers would work, because when I was a kid growing up, I always watched her on television, and people couldn't understand why I would sit there and watch Hollywood Squares, because she was a panelist there, if you remember.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, amen to that.
And I did one show, and everybody said, you found your character. And I thought, well, that's very nice. And I thought, 6 months I'll get out of this, right? A few months later, it was Halloween. I went out, and I decided I wasn't going to go out as Joan Rivers. I was going to go out as Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, get out.
Yes, this Halloween, like contest. And somebody looks at me, and like the first person that saw me in the club that night said, you look just like her. You look just like her. You're perfect. I was like, well, thank you. And they were like, Joan Rivers, right? And I was trying to be Marilyn. I had the mole and everything. And
I love it.
My wife got the mole, and that became Joan.
And you became... History just happened.
I love it.
And I thought, well, all right, 6 months, and then I'll try something else. And then 6 months led into a year. And then all of a sudden, that was in the early 80s. And if some of you remember, in the early 80s, it was like when female impersonators were being accepted into, regular society, regular clubs and just, everywhere, dinner theaters, casinos. So and then one thing led to another. And then I got hired for a show called An Evening at Lacage. And I moved out of New Jersey and I moved to Florida. They had sent me to California for a little bit. And I just kept going. I wound up in Toronto, and I wound up in Aruba for almost 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
so I would,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that I would not consider you a drag queen. You are a female impersonator.
Thank you.
Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Many of us consider ourselves character actors because we're actors, but we have a certain character. And I couldn't have thought of choosing, or maybe she chose me, I don't know, a character better than Joan Rivers, because she just was so much fun.
And she was loved by the masses, which was even better, because now when you're out there performing, people are admiring you, you're doing Joan. Yes.
And she was respected so much by her peers. One of the things I always said when I'd watch her on television, I used to think to myself, I bet she's a lot of fun in person. I bet she's a really nice person. Yeah. And every time I was in her company, she was great. She was just great. What a nice lady. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I had the privilege. I had won some tickets one time to see her perform here in New York City. And I brought some friends with us, and I didn't know that afterwards she had asked us to come backstage to meet her. She was the most, on stage, she's just harsh, and she'll say anything about anybody and this and that. Oh, my God. So shocking. But backstage,
it was the 360 when you met her off stage, right?
Sweetest, most kindest, almost vulnerable little thing. Just the sweetest, kindest, most gracious person. She really was.
Yeah, she was. And I always said she was very genuine. Very genuine.
Yeah.
When she treated me as if I were an equal, I would think to myself, like, this is gold to me. This is wonderful.
Well, tell us though, Gary. Tell us, because everything is wonderful. How you started as Joan, but when you met her, how did that even happen?
The first time?
Yes.
The first time I ever met her, a friend of mine had called me, and I was performing with him. And he said, they're doing a party at Studio 54 to raise money for the duplex, because the duplex was having money problems at the time. And Joan's going to be there. And I remember it was a cold, like January, February night. And I met some friends in New York, and we went into Studio 54, and we were looking all over for her. And I happened to see, like, out of the corner of my eye, like, the back door, like, to leave, and this big bouncer. And I said, did somebody just leave? Is Joan Rivers up in the party? He said, she just walked out. And I went out the door, and there was this big limo parked on the street, and she was in the limo, and there was a bodyguard standing there just ready to close the door, and I snuck under his arm. And I said, hi. And she looked at me, and she was like, would you please come in the car? Would you please come in the car? It's so cold. Come in here. And I got into the limo with her, and she was just like, hi, how are you? And I had a picture with me, and Edgar, her husband, took the picture of the two of us together. And that was the first time. And every time I saw her after that, she would always remember me. Always. She just would pick me out and say, oh, I know him. Very kind, very kind. And then all of a sudden, calls were coming in that she wanted to hire me for stuff. I mean,
how incredible.
Yeah, that's very, very thoughtful. There's a lot of people that I know that are female impersonators, and they will impersonate certain characters, but the people that they impersonate aren't always as receptive.
Yes.
They just.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she embraced it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But also, if you commit to doing an impersonation of a legendary performer, I mean, there is so much research goes into it, because you have to kind of personify that person. You're going to be asked questions, and you have to respond how that person would respond. I mean, there's a whole layering to it,
Absolutely. And I did a lot of research, and I saw her time and time again. One of the best parts about seeing her was, of course, what she was doing on stage, because I would always get something different out of her performance. I was always learned something new.
Right.
But whenever she knew I was out there, someone would come out, like one of her assistants, and say, Joan wants to see you backstage, after the show. Can you? They were asking me, can I go backstage and say hi to Joan?
No. Sorry, I'm busy. Sorry.
Yeah, I got so much to do.
I love it.
She treated all of us, like whoever I was with, beautifully. And, I would walk away from her, and I'd say to whoever I was with, a friend or whatever, and I'd say, how was I, was I nervous in front of her? No. And then they would say to me, she really likes you. You can tell she's really interested in what you do, and she has a fondness for you. And I thought that was very nice. Very nice.
Well, that one moment that you said that you got under that bodyguard's, little arm there.
I was bound and determined.
Right. I was going to say, now, if that moment never happened, do you still think somewhere in your head that, hey, I'm still going to meet Joan down the line somehow?
Oh, I knew I would. I would. And I knew that she would probably be a very nice lady, but not nearly as nice as she turned out to be. And when people say negative things about her, I never heard, I know you heard dribs and drabs of, in the gossip columns or whatever, but I never, any venue I ever worked that she worked, they would always say, oh, she was so sweet. She was so nice. She brought people gifts. She stayed around and took pictures. She did autographs. That's who she was. She loved what she did.
Yeah.
Right.
And she appreciated the fact that she had such a long run.
Yeah.
So
she was a consummate professional. She really was.
She was. And she knew her audience. She knew what her audience loved. She knew what they wanted. She knew what they expected. And she gave it to them.
Yeah.
She held nothing back.
And I'm not one to gossip. But I would just like to know, Gary, your thoughts. Because she seemed to take to you very well. But in the beginning with Frank Marino, I know there was a little... Yeah.
Well, there was from what I heard and read, there was a big lawsuit. My mom said something to me many years ago about when I told her about this impersonation thing. She said, always remember one thing. She's the star and you're the impersonator. And if you keep that in your mind, that she's the star, and when you're around her, you respect the fact that she's the star, she's the original. I don't know if you'll ever have a problem. And I think that's why it works so well.
Good advice.
Yeah.
And that's why the chemistry was always good whenever I worked with her. Fun. She was always concerned about anybody working with her, did you eat? Did you have something to eat?
Oh.
You know, are you comfortable? Are they putting you up in a nice hotel? All of those questions always came out. Nice.
That's amazing. That's amazing, especially when you have this icon that you look up to and they turn out to be so nice. When they don't, like when I met Roseanne.
Yeah.
Oh, see you next Tuesday.
Did you say that?
Is she on that cover?
I just have a few programs laying around the house.
Please hold them up. Hold them up.
Sure.
And please tell us what this was from.
See,
Is it
from? This is Divas in a Man's World. This was the tour that we've done and we're going to do in the future.
I see Cher and Dolly and Joan and
Diana Ross.
Diana. Okay. Fabulous.
Love it.
This is when the Divas in a Man's World, when myself and I'm especially focusing on Cher because it's her birthday today. Myself and Steve Andrade. We do the two-part show.
Steven is amazing.
Yes, absolutely. We do all different versions of it.
I would love to hear about maybe one time when working with Joan, like just pick a time and just tell us what that was like.
The Celebrity Apprentice. That was the most interesting.
Oh, okay.
That was the most, just thrilling because I didn't know what was going on. Now, I didn't know I was going to do that show until the morning of the taping. And I remember it was the day after Halloween, and it was Saturday morning, and the phone rang around 9:30 in the morning. It was her assistant calling saying, Joan wants you to do something on the Celebrity Apprentice. She's going to have a red carpet. She wants you to host the red carpet. I said, fine.
Oh,
I said, when do we take? She said, today at 4:00 we take. What? And I remember I had to
be there.
Yeah, be there at FIT where we're taping.
Wow.
I jumped up out of bed, took a shower, and started taking all the stuff out of the suitcase from the night before, throw it in the washing machine, drying it, all this kind of stuff, fresh. Got into the city, and I remember walking into this big room, and it had everything set up for their parties. And she had one party in one room, and Annie Duke, her opponent, had one in the other room. And yeah,
a polka player.
And I remember she caught a glimpse of me walking by with my suitcases and everything, and she was across the room, and she ran right up, and she gave me a hug. She said, "Thank you so much for doing this today." I was like, "Well, you're welcome." And this person said, I remember who it was, "Go down here and I'll show you where the dressing room." So I said, fine. Now, it was, if you know it about The Apprentice or the Celebrity Apprentice, the last task that you have to do is throw your best party. So there were like 7 or 8 episodes taped before this episode. Mm-hmm. So all of this catfighting was going on, and unbeknownst to me, I show up and Annie Duke is looking at me, giving me dirty looks, and telling her, "Don't talk to Joan on the red carpet. Talk to Dennis Rodman, who was on her red carpet. Go in this room. Don't go in Joan's room." And I'm thinking, like, why are these two women not getting along? But when you saw the season, you knew what was going on.
It was good.
I mean, Joan was bound and determined to win, and that was that. She was there for a reason. And she put up a great fight, and she was well in her 70s, and she was competing, against a woman who was probably 40 or 42, and she won. It was an interesting crowd to meet that day. There was so many celebrities, and she was very appreciative of it. Very appreciative. I know that the clip that we were talking about last night, Joan Rivers is a Man, where I filmed that little commercial for the red carpet, that was filmed in Melissa's house.
And we're going to show that clip right now.
Did you cut yourself shaving?
You should have seen my legs.
It's a beautiful gown with the jock strap sewn on the inside. Yeah, you know, you've got to hurry. We're so late, I'm going to have to change in the car. Hurry, hurry. Come on, come on, come on, come on. You know, Mom, someday people are going to catch on.
Maybe. But for now, it's just our little secret. Come on. By the way, I flushed this time.
Oh my God, that video is so incredible. Oh, that must have been so exciting. How did that even come about that she asked you to be a part of that video?
I got a call from an agent on the West Coast, Dan Gordon. He said that the TV Guide channel wanted to do a fun thing for the opening of the red carpet for the Emmy Awards, and they wanted to do like a little like kind of commercial, a lead-in, saying like pretending that Joan Rivers is a man. So they want somebody to come out in guys' clothes and put on their makeup, and then have a little dialogue with Melissa, and then change, and then Joan will come out. And when he told me it was going to be filmed in Melissa's house, I mean, a television studio is one thing. Going into someone's home, I was welcomed so beautifully. They were so nice, so friendly. It was like, we have interviews to do. TV Guide is here. This magazine's here. We have, you know, our hair to do, this, that, and the other thing. You know, if you want to go clean up, you want to go eat, you know. And Joan made sure before I left that I came into the kitchen, and she was sitting there, and they had ordered pizza, and we had some pizza together.
Oh,
and she said, "Thank you so much for doing this for us." But I do remember there was a few moments there that they were filming, you know, into the dressing table and the mirror, and the camera was behind me. So the camera was like, say, over my right shoulder. Over my left shoulder in the doorway coming into, that was a guest bedroom, I could feel this presence of like somebody standing there like 5 feet away. I have this feeling of like somebody staring me down, but I couldn't see through the mirror. And I happened to do this, and Joan is standing in the doorway watching me put my makeup on with her arms like this. I said hello. She said, hello.
Hello.
I wonder if that was like an out-of-body experience
Oh,
for her,
it was-
watching herself get ready.
You know, I couldn't see her. I was looking this way, and there she was over my shoulder. I don't know how long she was standing there for, but she was watching me put the makeup on. That was fun. That was.
I have to say, Gary, if that was me and Joan was behind me and I'm putting the makeup on, I would have looked like Katharine Hepburn. I would have been so nervous.
I was, but I would always say to myself, just be respectful, be polite, be professional, and don't let her see your knees shake when she's talking to, because my knees would be shaking like this. And I think she got it, because I think that for all the struggles she had early on, I'm sure there were a lot of her idols that she spoke to that she didn't feel as though she was worthy of, and her knees probably shook a lot.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I just watched on Me TV. They've started showing the Ed Sullivan reruns, and I saw she was on the episode that I watched the other night.
Yes, I saw that. I saw she was in like a magenta tone dress and pearl. I saw that. I remember seeing her years ago on those early performances. She was on like Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she was, and she was always, I don't know, she just was always very funny. It took her a long time, though, to get to the level that she had become, where she really just let loose and she said whatever was on her mind, and she got away with it.
Yeah, well, she was, because like on the Ed Sullivan show, she was very filtered. You could tell she was, very careful and tiptoeing. But boy, she got to a point, like with Elizabeth Taylor. She would unleash on Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. And that's when I think she really started. She kind of found her niche where she could come out and say anything, and the filthier the better.
That's right. That's right. And she held it in for a long time. And I think she did little by little, like every 6 months, she'd get a little more edgier and a little more edgier. And I had those experiences in impersonating her, like I remember years back going to Toronto to work, and I remember being advised, told, don't say this, don't say that. Canadians are more conservative than Americans. You're going to offend people. Don't make fun of this one. This one's very, very honored in this, and every night I would go out and do a little more, like one joke here, 2 jokes there, sneak that joke in. And it was the same in England. I remember when we had gone to London to work, they, be careful, be very careful about what you say, especially don't talk about the royals. Don't talk about the royals in England. No. But I remember every night there too, I would just get a little more, one joke here on this one, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. The British have a great sense of humor. They're known for that.
Yeah, the time when I met her, that was one of the questions I had, because she kept saying how we were such a good audience that night. They put me right down front and center, and I've got a loud laugh. And I was I guess maybe dictating, because some of those harsh, unexpected things, I was rolling, and I'd bring the rest of the audience.
Oh yeah.
But she kept commenting, and so I said, but you've performed all around the world. I said, for royalty and all of that, and she goes, "Oh hell no!" She goes, "You gotta be very careful what you say. They've got a whole list of things that you can't talk about." And I
remember at her memorial service when Howard Stern was up there talking, just to see Howard Stern tear up was, got very emotional. But he did say that his friend Joan Rivers, she was the only celebrity he knew that she would be on his radio show on a Tuesday talking about how dry her vagina was, and the next day she'd have a tea with the Queen of England. I mean, she
love it. And what an honor that you were invited to the memorial. I mean, that speaks volumes.
Something I'll never forget. Something I will never forget, and something totally unexpected. And many people said, "What do you mean you're not going?" I said, "That's going to be private. They're going to have to get an invite. I'm not going to go stand there in the middle of. It's going to be a media circus." But I was considering it then. Maybe the day before. Maybe I will go in and just watch what's going on. And then all of a sudden, I checked my emails and there was an invite, and I said, for one person. I was just honored by that. Just honored, and it was quite a beautiful, beautiful service. Beautiful. Big displays of flowers, and maybe 3,000 people were there.
Wow.
Judge Judy, everybody from The View, Donald Trump was there, just Cindy Adams, Deborah Norville, Geraldo. And I remember arriving there, and I was the second person online. There was one person in front of me, and you had to go you had to go across the street. You weren't allowed on that side of the street where the temple was unless you had an invite in your hand, and they would check your invitation. And the people in front of me were her family. It was her nephew. Because when he said his last name, I said, "I'm sorry about the loss of your aunt." He looked at me and I said, "I followed her career for a long time. I recognize your name." And he said it. So they went right up front. And I said, "Well, I'm not going to go all the way up front. I mean, those are her, intimate family. You know what I'm saying?" So I was a few rows back. But I just, when I walked out, Kathy Griffin was standing in front of me. Kelly Osbourne was there. She was standing in front of me, walking out at the same time. Kelly Osbourne she was devastated. She was just, you could just tell, like she said, I lost my grand. Rosie O'Donnell, she was, but it was done beautifully. Yeah. What's your favorite Joan Rivers line?
Oh God.
Mine,
a few of them.
Mine is the Elizabeth Taylor jokes.
Yeah.
She wore yellow out one day, and 20 kids tried to board her.
Yeah.
Pierce the river, Brady shot out.
Yeah.
I think my favorite Elizabeth Taylor. So she was always talking about how heavy or how fat Elizabeth Taylor was, and she'll stand in front of a microwave oven going, "Hurry, hurry!"
Oh my goodness!
My very favorite Joan line, and not too many people will remember this, and it was on Carson, and she came out as a guest, and Gene Harris, the Scarsdale Diet, remember that whole scandal? He wrote the Scarsdale Diet book, and he was involved with her, and she got convicted of murder, and she went to jail, and she had just gotten convicted, and Joan came out, and Johnny said, "Joan, you look so great. I mean, you look so thin. Are you on a diet?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, which diet is that?" She said, "The Scarsdale Diet. Shoot your doctor and live on bread and water."
Oh my God, how clever!
And the Elizabeth Taylor, yes, the Elizabeth Taylor jokes and the Queen of England jokes. Those jokes she used quite often. I mean,
Oh yeah.
But that one was, to me, I mean, that was clever. That was
There's so many of those. One time, she's the only woman that a peeping Tom would pull down the blinds.
Yeah. I was coming out of the shower. Stevie Wonder looked in and said, "I can't look."
I can't. Love it.
Oh God. Well, now
gay. Yeah. But that's what made her funny, because she picked on herself a lot.
Self-deprecating.
Pulled herself apart. And she would go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because we know like how much Joan had influenced you, but did you have any other influences, like when you were growing up and getting into entertainment? And
oh yes, Joan was to me one of the strongest. I of course like who's your favorite, Barbara?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Got you, Tim.
Oh God, yes.
Yes. You did this?
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh yes, Barbara.
Barbara.
A little bit Judy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we all love Judy.
Yeah.
I mean, iconic. And you look at these women that we, people follow all the time. And first of all, Judy Garland, from what I was told, was like 4'11". Joan Rivers was, I think, only just about 5'1". They were tiny, tiny people, and they had, huge personalities.
Yeah.
How about Phyllis Diller? Wait a minute. I was teasing my hair and it bit me back. Have that on my table that I bought at home because it was just laying there in the living room.
Well, that's what I want to ask you, Gary, too, because not only Joan, I'm quite sure you've impersonated other legends as well.
Yes, but Phyllis, when we were working in Miami years ago, we were doing an evening at La Cage, and she was down there taping something for Hollywood Squares. They were doing it from the Diplomat Hotel, and she came in to see the show. And I'm just going to tell you this. I don't know, the experience always seems when you have a celebrity in the audience, I think the audience is so intimidated. They're too busy looking at the celebrity instead of paying attention to you. And I remember standing up there and doing joke after joke, and they were just like, looking at me. And the only laugh I heard in the whole showroom was Phyllis's, that
Exactly.
And when you're a comedian and you're dying and you're just not getting anything, your timing is it's like a shot. You're waiting for that, reaction. She came backstage to talk to us afterwards, and I remember it was so much fun that she said to us, we were all in costume, and she said, "I want everybody to line up." And she lines us up like soldiers. And she went down the line. Dionne Warwick and I know each other since 1960, and the way you played her, and she gave her, and she said to me, "You step off this way because I'm saving you for last." I'm like, here it goes. And I remember what she said to me. She said, "How many times I played this room?" She said, "One time they booked me here in the same showroom, and it was for like 5 or 6 nights." She said, "And every night I went out there," she said, "I bombed." She said, they just wouldn't respond to me. Nothing. She said, I know what you were going through up there. And I said, and I heard you laugh. I heard that famous Phyllis Diller laugh, and she was great. And you turn the clock ahead, and finished that gig, and then I moved up to Toronto to do the same show, An Evening at La Cage, and she was appearing there in a hotel, and we all went to see her. She invited all of us back. Joan invited all of us back to her hotel room after the show. And I remember walking in, and I remember she looked at us, she said, I have like 5 or 6 people from the press coming to talk to me. And I have a bar, but I don't have a bartender. I said, Phyllis, I'll be your bartender. She said, you would? I said, of course I will. So I mixed some drinks. And then we were talking about the show, and I said, I so enjoy what you do, and I've watched you for many, many years. And I would like to put, an impersonation of you in the show. And I tell you, when she said this to me, I almost fell off the couch. She said, if you do me as well as you do Joan, she said, go right ahead and do it.
Oh,
Thank you.
Wow. How incredible is that?
That was nice. From Phyllis Diller, that was nice.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing, Gary. Those celebrities back in the day, there's nothing like them. You can impersonate them. We don't have that today. Who do you impersonate?
Yeah.
Ariana Grande, the ponytail. That's all you could think of. Look what I could do.
Do you know, you talk about a ponytail. Do you know that when we all, like the people that I started with in An Evening at La Cage in the 80s, Madonna was just coming onto the scene. You know, the producers were apprehensive. It took them about 2 years to put a Madonna in the show. She was selling like millions and millions of records all over the world. And they were saying, I don't know if the people, from the suburbs are going to go for that stuff. Yes. Yes. I'm sorry?
I was just saying, they're the ones buying her albums.
It was only until that. Right, but they were just so nervous about it. It was only, I think, until she did her the Blonde Ambition with the ponytail that they said, okay, well, let's put a Madonna in the show. And then all of a sudden, all the shows had a Madonna.
Right.
Yeah.
Usually when you go to see one of those like casino style reviews, there's usually a Cher, a Joan, a Liza, a Diana Ross, a Whitney, all of those icons. But Madonna, they were nervous about. They were just nervous that.
Well, she was so controversial.
Oh, yeah. But people loved her for it. Yeah. And I wonder if this generation, like the 20-somethings, if you said Madonna, if they would, yeah, more so Lady Gaga, I'm sure.
Ugh. I can't tolerate that woman.
Oh, I like
her. I'm not a Gaga fan.
I think she's great at what she does. She has a beautiful voice. And I do know a story that someone told me out in the Midwest, like in maybe Kentucky. She was doing a tour years back, and she heard that somebody was doing her in drag at one of the bars. She finished her concert, and they snuck her in backstage. And I think you can find it on YouTube. And she walked out on stage, and this person's up there. This guy's in drag, impersonating her. And he turned around, and she was standing there. I think you can Google that. It will come on.
That's great.
She surprised him. Yeah. Yeah.
Luckily, she probably tucked then too.
And you talked about Barbara. Okay. Yes, I do respect Barbara Streisand. That's a beautiful voice. Mm-hmm. I don't think she was ever that fond of being impersonated by men. I don't think. Sure. But many say she was not that great about it. I think she liked, he was perfection, Jim Bailey. Him, I think she liked. But she was very funny about it, from what I hear. But
yeah. Well, I think a lot of times too with the Barbara Streisand impersonations, it wasn't so much they were impersonating; they were kind of ridiculing her a little bit.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Sometimes I'd be like, "Oh God!"
They were making it a character.
I think it was 94 when she first returned to the stage and did live shows again. I first wanted to get a ticket, trust me.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was Pride Week here in New York, and she had made this joke about how she had, put on some sunglasses and was walking around, how festive New York was during Pride Week, and she was walking through the streets of the village, and she says this woman leans over to her husband and she goes, "That's the 6th Barbara Streisand impersonator I've seen, and by far the worst one yet."
I love that. I love that line. That's great.
Yeah. These people know. These people know that people are impersonating them in drag. And I remember years back when I first started, character impersonation had just come into play. Many of the people that I met that were doing it before that, like the early 80s, they were just doing like their own thing. And then character impersonation, lookalikes. I know that a lot of the shows wouldn't hire you unless you could impersonate one or two famous women. And now all of a sudden, what I see on Drag Race is that they're, for the most part, they're just their own personality. Some of them do characters, but for the most part, they're just, you know, in drag and they do their own thing, which is great. I do give them a lot of them credit because a lot of them are very talented. They do hair, they do their makeup beautifully. They sew their own clothing. They sing. A lot of them sing live, which is good. It's very good. So I've seen all different changes. Yes, absolutely. And you know, Chad Michaels, who won the All Stars, I don't know how many years ago, 8-10 years ago. I worked with him many years ago in Lacage, in Vegas, and in London. And he was very young and just starting out, but you could just tell that he was really going to do something with his career, and he did.
Oh yeah, you know, you just like with any celebrity that you see that they have that star power, you know instantly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Tim, there is so much more to talk about with Gary D.
Right. Oh, and we've got more. We got the tea. He's going to be spilling tea and telling more stories, and we're going to be playing games. So be sure to come back for part 2 next week.
Yes.
Of our interview with the fabulous Gary D.